Welcome back to A Corporate Time. Let's do some more voicemail.
Yeah, I like voicemails and emails. I enjoyed this question from our good friend, DeBerry Joe.
What's up, guys? It's DeBerry Joe. So, a high thought struck me today, and I know it's like overthinking crap and it'll never be a part of my life, but the idea that if I ever get arrested and they ask me if I go by any other aliases, and then I have to tell them, like, there's a certain amount of people that know me by DeBerry Joe, just really makes me laugh. And
I don't think I have any aliases.
Yeah, you do. Danny Denny, Double DZ, or whatever the hell.
Does that work? Are those aliases?
Yeah. Anything else that anybody would know you by?
What
Double
am I called?
D?
What am I called the most? Double D?
I mean, I don't.
Probably. But the listeners, what do the listeners call me? The listeners
The
call
M
you
word.
Okay, the M word. Okay, we were looking for M word.
Yeah.
But they really say it. You are known as Tom.
Yeah.
The most.
Yeah.
Am I known as Dan the most?
Daniel, I think.
You think Daniel over Dan?
Yeah.
Andrea and I got into a fight about this, and it was on one of the dump 'em outs from like a while ago, so I'm in a tangent. She said to me that if you are, let's say you're born and your mom names you Tom, you are not allowed, as you get older, to name yourself Thomas. She would have had to have named you Thomas at birth. And Thomases can take Tom. But you ever heard these weirdos? And there's a lot of them, and I do mean disrespect when I say this. You know those people that where their parents like went ahead and shortened it, and they didn't give them the old English version of it? There are people I know that are like, oh, what's your name? And they're like, oh, I'm Timmy. And then you're like, oh, so it's Timothy. And they're like, no, I'm Timmy.
Yeah,
I'm named Timmy.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, of course you're a Timothy. No. I'm not a Tim or a Timothy.
Yeah, they named them the short version of it.
Right, and there are a lot of those people out there.
Yeah.
And my wife was telling me that if you were named, let's say you were named Tim, that if you wanted to go by Timothy, you're allowed. And I was saying, no, you're not. Because it's not your name.
Yeah.
And then she started to go into this thing, and this is where we really got into an argument. She was like, well, I mean, you're an adult. You can call yourself whatever you want. I was like, no, you can't. Legally, you cannot.
Well, legally, I guess, you have to write although.
And then it started to spiderweb into me disliking people over the age of 50 that have a cute nickname. Like if you're a 50-year-old man and everybody has to call you Papa G, I'm mad at you. I don't like that. You go by your God-given name or what your mother gave you. That's the name you go by.
Yeah. I've got a lot of this in my life because Crystal, her family calls her Lauren. So when I'm around her family, I have to call her Lauren.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
And don't get mad. Lauren is a very sexy name.
You thought I would get mad at that?
Well, I mean, I'm talking about your wife. You know, let me just like a lot of men. You have a sexy wife.
You could clam slap my wife. You can.
I want to.
A stranger.
Yeah, that's true. I've earned that.
You have to ask me.
I think I've earned that.
And then I'll say, well, ask her.
Of course I'm going to ask you. I'm not going to like just walk up and start slapping. You don't never do that. Never touch somebody without asking. You got to ask. Can I clam slap?
Yeah.
She'd be like, what? And then I'm sorry, didn't say anything. Never mind.
And then I get, I'm called a million different names. So, it's.
I guess I thought that aliases had a little bit more. Like, I guess in order to be an alias, I thought it would like that. What you're naming are all like little nicknames and things. I always thought an alias was a little more like
criminal.
Yeah.
Like a false identity.
Yeah.
It seems like that, but
like you have signed hundreds of pieces of paper in Orlando and Greater Central Florida area that say Donald Duck. Hundreds of motorcycles and four-wheelers and trailers and side-by-side, these things, just thousands.
It turns out it doesn't matter what your signature is, really. Because
did it ever?
I don't think it did, because I guess it just matters if you made your mark in some way. And then, so your actual, unless you're some sort of, famous person, and then someone's trying to, your signature's worth money, and then I guess someone wanted to authenticate it.
Okay, all right.
But like normal day to day, It does not matter, I believe, that you actually write your same signature you always wrote. You're signing.
We've gone with more permanent things like
your mortgage or something.
Like
the most
your fingerprints or your eyes, are certainly more.
Yeah, but they don't
trustworthy than a signature.
Well, what I'm saying, like when they bring you to sign a contract with work or like your mortgage or something
ceremonial at that point,
something super important.
Yeah,
like. I always used to make the joke and sign Donald Duck, and that somehow got me out of whatever. But it doesn't. Whatever the hell you make it a mark, that is what is legally binding.
Yeah.
And then if you need, that's why there's
Isn't it more your presence there? Follow me with this. So
I think you have to sign something physically.
Right.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. So Mo DeWitt has some documents for me to sign. Right. And they all say Dan Dennis. I walk into his office, and wherever he says initial, I write ZZ, and then when I go to sign my name, I sign Donald Duck.
Yeah. That doesn't. It's same.
I don't think that means anything because
same as Daniel.
I was there. There's a record of me as a human being there. I initialed the paper. It doesn't matter what I write. I was there physically going through what I needed to do.
But then I guess if you didn't notarize it, then you could have an out and be like, I was never there. Like say
that sounds accurate.
Say with iHeart, right? You signed a contract, right?
Ooh, I like
so
this.
like even this happened to us, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, under contract it says you can't do this, and there's a dispute, right?
Okay, sure.
And like, we'd have to ask Mo this next time he comes in, but could you be like, I didn't sign that. That's not my signature.
You could if
the jury probably wouldn't believe you, right?
You could do that if there weren't other people witnessing you being there or have been in the building doing it or whatever, right? Sure, you could do that.
But usually it's just you and the manager. There's no other witnesses. We didn't have to. There was no witnesses that had to sign.
Mine always had Catherine in. I always had two people in mine.
Oh, so they did that on purpose? You think?
I think they maybe did. No, they didn't. They didn't think about that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, what kind of...
Mine was always two people. It was always my big boss
repercussions
and my secondary boss.
Yeah. And maybe they do that, like corporations do that so that if there's a dispute, they could bring in a witness.
They would be
and
smart
like,
to do
that.
Them. Yeah, I saw him there signing Donald Duck.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me. Let's try this one right here.
Hey, guys. This question is for the show and any maybe BDMs or anyone that wants to give their input. I was wondering if you just had a job, you were single, you had no kids, no responsibilities, where would you go live? Because I'm about to find myself in that position, and
Allow me to explain. This is the historian. We love this guy.
Yeah. I recognize his voice.
Listens to the show all the time. I believe he takes care of either his grandparents or his parents, and he is a good man for doing that. But I believe that he's also in the ending of their journey, let's say. And he's probably going to end up living by himself. Now, I guess his question is, as a single man with no attachments, where do you go? That has to be a hard decision.
It depends. If you works remotely, then it's like, because
you
have to follow your job, but wherever your job is, that's where you go. But if you work remotely, and a lot of people are in this position,
where can't you go?
Where do you live?
Yeah.
If it could be anywhere in the world as long as they have an internet connection.
You can live. You can just nomadic life. You can just.
Yeah, I would if your job didn't. Okay, so there's an advantage to time zones if your job doesn't require you to live anywhere near its headquarters, right?
Okay.
So, like, let's say you work on the, the headquarters are on the West Coast,
okay,
right? So you move to the East Coast, right? And then all of a sudden you have essentially a jump on the workday where it's done, earlier because the workday technically doesn't start until the West Coast
time. With a little bit of planning and a touch of sacrifice, you could have a pretty awesome life.
Like you can live in Hawaii and basically your workday is your job's middle of the night. So if it's just about getting work done, now that could go back to screw you if you actually had to go to meetings and things like that.
Andrea's is hard because she does sort of what you do, although she's East Coast and she doesn't really change her hours. A lot of her meetings will be weird because she's dealing with people that might be like in
different time zones,
Iraq, Dubai, France.
Yeah.
You know, Germany. Like you're dealing with all these Australia, and then you get the weird outliers like Australia or like China, and then you're getting like these weird so sometimes not so much her, but the programmers, the people really in there, like sometimes like what you're saying, you'll be in Hawaii and like, sorry, I got to get up at 3 because everybody else is outnumbering me. I'm the outlier, so I'll get up and do that. But you know what? If you only had to do that every once in a while, I don't think that'd be that big of a deal.
Also, it seems like you have the opportunity to jump from place to place and spend a year or 6 months. Because now with Airbnb, month-to-month rentals are common. Or you could just sign a year lease and live in like, hey, I'm going to try Maine for a year, and then you get to live in Maine, and then you basically get a good idea within a year's time of what living in Maine is like. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You see everything as
things, and if you didn't like it, you could
and
move.
then just jump to different sought after places. The problem is though, now because of the internet and because of COVID and accelerated everything, all the sought after nice places to live are super expensive.
We are one of them.
Yeah, Florida.
That's
Yeah,
why
the
you
entire
can't,
Florida.
Why can't find a house here?
But you could probably like live on the outskirts and then just be like 40 minutes from the, you know what I'm saying? And then
I've
all of a
always
sudden,
enjoyed that. I've always enjoyed being in the suburbs and like commuting into work, like normal. The cliche.
Like, you know, obviously, I'm sure there's like, you know, Nantucket is super insane, you know, like and you can't live there because you're priced out.
Yeah.
But if you live half an hour from there, then you can still experience it, get a gist of it, and but not have to pay the crazy high prices to live there.
I'll let the historian finish out. I don't remember if he had another point.
All apartments are expensive everywhere, so I figure if I'm just gonna be working to pay bills, why not do it somewhere decent? So wondering, I don't have much experience traveling the world, wondering where you guys would go live if you had a decent job and were single and could essentially go anywhere.
My first one, I don't think I'd overthink it, historian. My first one, I think I'd bucket list it. Especially if my job, I can work remotely, I would find the place that might not be reasonable and go there first.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that way, if it's not working or like, oh, this isn't going to be convenient, at least you can check it off your list. You visited it. It was cool or not cool. Then you can go to something else.
Now, the historian's young, and I didn't so much care about this when I was younger, but I got to tell you, like the snowbirds, they know, and they have used their life experience to realize that living in nice weather all the time is pretty sweet. So you do have the opportunity to just jump around and follow the weather with a remote job, and if you had the freedom of anywhere you want to live. So you can, you know, you go to Florida in the winter and then jump around. I mean, anywhere in Southern California is going to be nice all the time, but like just follow the weather. And then just plan your life out quarterly, and like, hey, this quarter I'm going to live here, this quarter, you know.
I think that sounds pretty fun.
Although I wonder if just like, you know, people that grew up in the military and they got tired of moving all the time, that you would seek some sort of stability.
Okay.
Because you're tired of, you know.
Yeah, that's a great point. These people do exist. I'm sure they do. Let me just blanket statement that. But the way I grew up, I know a lot of lifer military people, and I have yet to hear from one of them that they enjoyed
but they didn't have
traveling.
A choice. They didn't have a choice.
Exactly. So it's different. When you're a kid, just being drugged around by your dad or mom.
But even in the military, you don't have a choice.
No,
or where you go. They make
But my
you
point
like,
is, none of my friends liked it. Like not even one person was like, you know what, it was weird, but I enjoyed it. You know, like.
But maybe with the choice is different because
guaranteed.
Because now, like, you know, you get the gist of an area, or whatever, and you get tired of it, you just move on to a different place, and then now you're always like, I wonder what it would be like to live in
I have this
the
fantasy
Ozarks.
a lot, but I'm like, okay, in my fantasy, because I've had this fantasy a lot. Like, it's been a reoccurring theme on our show that I've always had fantasies of just leaving my family high and dry and then going out on my own, just me and Dansby alone.
Yeah.
But the way I would do it would be very, very slow. I think a lot of people think that you go to like San Francisco, you go to your honey hole place first, and you go in there and you're there for about 3-6 months.
Yeah.
That's not how I would do it. I think the way I do it, first of all, in my fantasy, I'm in a car. I'm not flying. In my fantasy, I'm driving to like Tampa, and I go from Orlando to Tampa, and I do like a month in Tampa. And then I go from Tampa like to, let's say, Savannah, Georgia. And I do like a month in Savannah, Georgia. You know what I mean? Like, I for whatever reason, I don't know why my brain goes this way, but that's how I would do it. Like little cities, incrementally slow.
But then you run the risk too, and I saw this recently on like some TikTok video talking about the psychology, the length of a vacation. And I don't even know how much this is some
What's
sort
the
of
right
study.
number?
They said 8 days. They said anything longer and you're not getting the value out of those extra days, right? And then basically,
and anything shorter, you can't get something worthwhile.
Yeah. So then they say over that time. Now you would say oh well, the longer the vacation, the better. But the thing is, when you're on vacation, you're not. Basically, mentally, you're like, oh, this is vacation. This means it's something different than my normal life, right? And then after a certain amount of time, you start getting back to routines, and then now you're just living there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. There's comfortability, especially for me, someone like me, I love routine.
Yeah. So
I'm a routine guy. Melissa in our chat room says, BS, I'm a 3-weeker. That sounds long to me. 3 weeks. Oh my God! Like I get anxiety thinking, like I'm going on vacation for 3 weeks.
Now, like obviously, like traveling is a little different. Like the people in Europe and like Australia, like they go on a holiday and they'll go for like 3 weeks or a month or whatever. But so with traveling, time is on your side because you need time because there's lots of whole travel days that are just wasted, right? So that 3 weeks if you want to travel Europe, like yes, you need longer than 8 days. Yeah.
It's not a hop, skip, and a jump.
I'm saying you go to one place. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So because like after a certain amount of time, because then it's like if you want to go to a place to live there, you do, I think, almost need more than a month. Like you need a good 6 months to get the idea of what it's like to live in a location.
Well, to see what the culture is like.
Yeah.
Because the whole point of even doing it would be to immerse yourself into a different type of culture.
Yeah.
If not, what are you getting out of it?
Yeah, you're going to all the local stores and and then so you do need a good amount of time if you're going to live there. But vacation wise, that I kind of understand the 8-day thing where it's like, all right, after that you kind of get antsy where you're like, I want to go back or whatever.
That's interesting.
Because I even noticed when I was in Colorado, after like I was there longer than we normally are, and I was there like 10 days, and I found myself like wanting to get back to the routine.
I do that on a cruise, like a 7-day cruise. By day 7, I'm like, oh my God, I got to get the hell out of there. I'm going mad.
Cruises are a little more extreme because
I
of
can't
the
do
weirdo
the long ones anymore, dude. We did an 8, me and Andrea.
Yeah.
Had we not just been having uncontrollable anniversary sex the entire time, it's too much.
Yeah.
I just can't do it.
It's like Vegas or something. Like you could only be in Vegas for a long weekend.
It's
really,
exhausting.
7 days is too long.
This one is labeled pizza. I don't remember it.
Tom, Dan, Nelson, Minnesota here with Desiree, BDMs. I saw you guys at the show down in Sanford and I had a great time at Hollerbox. But we're having an argument here. I need your help with this one. I think a slice of pizza is an open-faced sandwich. A sandwich typically consists of a piece of bread, a couple pieces of bread.
God damn, turn your AM radio sports down, for the love of God, before you call into the radio show.
Cheese, sauce, meat, other accoutrements, or just veggies, no meat. So like you do the slice of pizza, sometimes just cheese and no sauce.
No, I can't do it. It's not a sandwich.
Yeah.
A sandwich has 2 slices of bread.
Well, he's saying open face, so that's just one slice of bread with stuff on top of it.
Open face sandwich to me delineates gravy.
Okay. Also,
an open face sandwich to me in the South is going to be a wet sandwich where the face of the sandwich is toast and or a biscuit. And then you heap some sort of lumpy gravy or pot roast on top of the bread. That is I don't think, if you have a sandwich and then you just take the piece of bread off the top of it, that's not an open-faced sandwich. That's just a sandwich that's missing a piece of bread.
Yeah,
Do you see the problem here?
he's trying to use, I guess, semantics. Shout out to semantics.
Hey, shout out to Sam.
But to say that a pizza is essentially by definition close to what an open face sandwich
Ross's
is.
waffle
Yeah.
toast bit, right? He's doing a variation of Ross's old bit.
Yeah. The problem is the triangle shape is not sandwich. Now
Correct.
you could get closer if you're like the square cut pizzas are closer to an open face sandwich than but the triangle disqualifies it.
But I
right
really
there.
believe an open face sandwich all across the board is going to be lumpy gravy.
Yeah.
I don't think open face sandwiches are like cold cuts. I'll die on this hill. I don't believe that if you make a hoagie and then you just remove half the bread off the one side, it's an open face sandwich, man. That's not the way it works.
Yeah, I think that specifically, you're right.
It's got to be like a lumpy hot gravy or something. When's the last time you had an open face sandwich? It's one of my dad's favorite.
I don't believe I've had one in a long time.
SOS, S on a shingle. That's an open face sandwich. Chip beef and gravy, chip beef and eggs.
That's considered an open face sandwich?
I think so. That's meat. That's gravy and
my
meat.
mom used to make me that.
That's
like
gravy.
white trash.
Well, that's what my dad's favorite breakfast was S on a shingle. And then he'd make 2 pieces of white toast, and then he'd make the pepper gravy with little slices of Hormel chipped beef in it, and dump it all over there, and then salt the crap out of it, and then wash it down with 4 cups of black coffee, and then he'd go blow up the bathroom sideways. Just explode it. Let's do another one. Let's go with this one right here.
Hello, Tom and Dan. It's Canadian Josh. The Cart Narc. He is a GD American hero doing the Lord's work, and I love him. And when he inevitably gets shot and killed, I will miss his content. I'll hang up and listen. Love you guys. BDM for life.
I don't know where I stand on the Cart Narc, because at first when I saw him, I'm like, this is real. But as with everything on the internet, now I don't believe any of it. Like any confrontation in any parking lot, any confrontation in any gym, it's fake. In any gym, if you show me any video in a gym, I'm like, it's fake. Before I even see it. Is Cart Narc real?
Well, I think at least it started off real.
Some people don't know what it is. Okay, Cart Narc, the chat rooms, some people are clueless. So it's this gentleman on social media. He has a huge presence, millions of followers, and he goes around the parking lots, and if you don't return your cart, he'll video you, and then he'll shame you in the video into like some sort of an altercation, or like you'll return your cart. He shames you. He's video shaming you for not returning your cart at the supermarket.
Yeah,
that's what he does.
Yeah.
And
that's the content.
I don't know if it's real.
At least it probably started off real, and maybe just like everything, like all of a sudden I think it took it too far. I liked him at first, but now I think I'm on the other people's side. Well, I think I'm on the people that leave their carts. I think I'm on their side now. Well,
because he's kind of a D-head now. I think he believes his own hype.
Well, just like everything, you start getting the more.
We should beat him up collectively as a society. We should wait for him, and when he starts videoing us, we jump out and start videoing him, and we're like, we're the Cart Narc.
You start like wanting to get. You're like, oh, that one that had more of a major confrontation got more views.
Yeah.
So you're like, how can I get more of that? And then that
a
ends
Spanish
up being
real
fake.
man pulls a gun out, right?
Although I think if you're not gonna get killed unless you
push it,
keep the fight, or you
but
escalate
you want those
the
views
fight.
And you're addicted to the views.
Yeah.
You're addicted to the attention.
Like,
so you see the gun and you're like, well, this guy won't shoot me. I'll push it all the way to the brake. And then you're laying on the ground. The guy's got the gun in your mouth. Real bad. It's real bad. You're seconds away from ending your life.
I don't know how that guy makes money, the Cart Narc, because does he read any commercials or anything, or does like?
Hey, what's up? It's Cart Narc for Stamps.com.
Man, I don't think he does that. So then he gets paid by the platform because they insert commercials based on your views or whatever.
Honestly, don't know. That's I'll do more research. I'll do some research and get back to you.
All right. Well, let's take a break. We'll be right back with more corporate time.
Perfect. That guy. You want to keep going with these?
Yeah.
Get some of the emails out here. This looks a good one. Oh, so DeBerry Joe says he doesn't read ads. I think they sell merch. He also has franchised it out. There are 4 Cart Narcs. All getting paid by the... That's interesting.
Yeah, well, that's just to get more content. But then do you just sell merch?
I guess.
I guess when you have that many people following you, that you could make a pretty good amount of money on merch, you know? You're selling thousands of shirts.
I mean, I know what I'm buying for Christmas for Andrea. It's a Cart Narc shirt. All right. It's fucking stupid. It's just as stupid as a Tom and Dan shirt. I'll bring us back.
Yep.
Here we go. 3, 2. Welcome back to A Corporate Time.
So let's continue with some emails.
Yeah, I want to jump into an email here. I thought this one was kind of interesting. This guy took a lot of time to kind of type this out. He said, I was listening to the Friday Free show from 8:23, and 12 minutes into the show, Crystal had an idea that Tom should go to a month-long men's retreat. And it got me thinking that you could do the Tom and Dan men's retreat. Do it at one of the Florida's many nature parks, so there is no drinking, no women, except for the massage therapist. More on that later. But no frills, just out in the woods with your tent and food rations, and there can be real mean guest speakers and interviews you do with some real, I think they meant real men, not real mean.
Okay.
With real men. We'll get Jim Phillips to go out there and do a talk. Have it be a week long. You have fitness experts, ice baths, saunas, really hot massage therapists, everything above board, freaky stuff unless you no freaky stuff unless you wanted it. I think this guy's just basically talking about his own fantasy, right? Of something he wants us to put together.
How much do you think people will pay for this? And then how do you make money?
Let's flesh this out for a second.
You want to go to the woods and be miserable?
Our buddy Dan Cummins does an adult summer camp.
Yeah.
The
people
Bad
go there to have
Magic.
fun.
Yeah,
this guy's describing some sort of David Goggins, like you go out there.
Don't we have like
rough
these
it.
militia camps now too to make people into alpha men? Isn't that like a thing now?
Oh yeah.
We could do one of those. It's just a cash grab, right? All we got to do is get some of our friends that have like guns. All right, line up a table full of guns. You need a table full of guns. You need a table full of knives. Boom! I've already got 2 activities.
You learn survival skills.
We need like you get Rodney the Gator Hunter or one of those jokers out there to tell us how to make a fire out of 2 rocks. Okay, move. Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Then you misogyny.
How much are people gonna pay for that?
Do some misogyny, play some games, cornhole, barbecue, do a little barbecue action.
Yeah.
I think guys are paying an upwards of $2,500 for a weekend to go and learn how to be an alpha male.
It seemed that's a hard sell. I feel it is
a one and done. Once we've done it, we've we pulled the curtain off of ourselves. We've exposed that we gave you no skills.
Yeah.
Whatsoever.
All those things I feel like are all kind of cheesy,
scammy,
and
they're not even real.
Also, is some sort of retreat going to, like, 4 weeks of doing something and, like, getting your head clear going to cause any difference in your life moving forward?
If you already don't believe in it, it won't. Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, is it even enough
when
time?
you ask these questions, though, now, whenever we're talking about something and you go, well, is it that's my way of knowing you say no to it. That's how I know.
Well, I'm curious.
No, I do think it could. It depends on what you're trying to solve. Yeah, I think, isn't it 21 days you can form a new habit? That you're forming new neural pathways within your brain? That's like science, right?
Yeah, I guess.
That's why we had a dad call in and actually said that's the reason for long division. Not the tangent, but when you were asking yesterday, like, why are we even doing this? Why are we doing long division? His point was as a teacher was like, it's the neural pathways. It's just teaching your brain to think in a different way. So since division is something that's hard and something that requires you to learn a new skill, and then you have to practice that new skill to get quick with it, he's like, it's that's important. Maybe not the division, but the idea of taking a skill,
it's just
learning
something,
it, and then weaponizing it rapidly. He's like,
Yeah.
that's what you're learning. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. Thank you for your email, sir.
Yeah. It just, I guess, you know, the retreats and even like the survival skills, you're learning how to make a fire.
You don't need it.
It's like,
I mean,
all
I
right.
do. That one comes up a lot for whatever reason. I don't know why I think about that one. You know, when people are talking about like, do you think about ancient Rome? I'm like, no. But for whatever reason, I do think about knowing how to make a fire just with my bare hands.
Yeah.
I think about that a lot.
It could be novelty, the skill to have, but something you'd never use practically
What's
in
a
your life.
skill you think you got that you didn't think you would need that you use a lot?
Nothing.
Is there?
I've nothing. I went to college and I can't literally think of one thing I learned in college.
Not even like, I'm thinking almost like as a human, not necessarily like something in academia or like college. I'm trying to think of, is there a skill, like one skill that like I learned, didn't think I would need it, and I'm like, you know what? Damn, I use that all the time.
I can't think of anything.
Me neither. Maybe it'll come to me. Maybe it'll come to me.
Oh, yeah. I don't think there is really.
You know when they say there are no dumb questions, that's a lie. That's a dumb question. Let's try this one right here.
Hey everyone, it's been a minute since I've called in, but I got 2 things on this Friday free show. Women complaining about decision fatigue, acting like everybody else doesn't have to make decisions. We all got to make decisions all the time. We don't want to make them all the time, but we got to do it. And second thing, cherry juice. I don't drink it personally. I do plan to start doing it one day, but pro cyclists, at the end of every race, they chug a giant bottle of cherry juice because they like all have this science and swear by that it actually will aid in recovery and help with trigger fingers specifically.
Yeah, but you didn't give me the science, so I can already hear Tom saying no to it. Sorry, buddy. Sorry, you didn't go. You came, you came to me with nothing. Yeah, I said, why?
Electrolytes, I can get that in a powder.
He said that they chug it because they've got the science.
Yeah.
Well, you should have given it to us. I got nothing now.
Yeah.
You just, like, I do feel like, and I have arthritic toes now. My toes are pop crazy. Sound like popcorn. They're always
We're
near the end. Coming in for a landing, buddy.
What would the guy say at the first part
He
of
was
that?
talking about our wives, I believe. We were talking about like our wives are complaining about decision fatigue.
Oh, yeah. It's hard because Crystal will she'll try to think of she'll make a decision and I'm saying she's overthinking. But she overthinks a decision that's meaningless in my mind.
Oh, man, that's a toughie. That's a tough one.
And then she's like, what should we do?
What if we think you're overthinking something that we think is not that important?
I'll tell you why it's important.
I had a feeling that was
because if it's not important, I wouldn't overthink it.
Because you're perfect.
If that is not perfect, I'll tell you, and you could be like, hey, I don't think this is important because of this. I'd be like, oh.
But that's not going to change the way you're overthinking it, right? Once you are big on once you're overthinking something, I mean, it doesn't matter what anybody says. You know, like you're going to do, you have a process. Everybody has a process.
Well, and then it gets to a point like there was a client that we obviously need, and I got to a point I'm like overthinking it. I'm moving on, and then I'm moving on to I'm never gonna go back to it.
Yeah.
So essentially,
but you stay mad at it.
I do have a limit to where I'm like, all right, this is enough time.
Yeah.
No, I mean, this is more time than it needs.
It's hard for me. I don't really have I'm terrible with that.
But like Crystal will think about the types of clothes the boys wear to school and things that.
It's important.
Yeah.
You don't want people thinking your sons are,
Here's the problem. It's emotionally important to her, and that's what I don't value. Is the emotional part of it.
Yeah.
And then because
but
other humans do.
Emotions are important
to other people. Yeah. So then I have to.
No, they are important.
Okay.
Just blanket statement. Emotions are important. They are. You can't
well,
devalue them. No. Emotions across the globe. Emotions are important.
Well, you could say things are valuable
You
to
can't
you
say-
and not to me.
No,
You
but
know,
you
I know
can't-
things are valuable to me and
No,
not to you.
the emotions make the world go around. Like the world is swirling around us, filled with emotions, and those emotions are important because we will never live in an emotionless society.
I know we won't.
So to devalue them is it's not accurate.
Yeah,
It's not reality. The only way you could say emotions are not important is if there were zero emotions and emotions didn't have a play in the world.
They are important, but
then
not
you
to
could
me.
say No, but that's so weird. That is such
They're
a
important to
weird-
the world.
Right.
But I
So
just
they
don't
should be,
care.
but they should be important to you because you're part of the world. It's kind of like the voting thing that you and I were disagreeing on.
They
should be important to you because you're part of it. You're part of the process. The minute you check out and say they're not important to me is the minute you do have one of those strange mental problems that wants to pull you out of society. You see what I'm saying?
Well, they're important to my marriage, which is important to me. But that's like the only other people's emotions, meaningless to me. What do I? Well, how does it affect me? Unless I'm married to that person.
I mean,
or my sons,
I
I
don't
guess.
think it's ever a good statement to ever say to anybody that
I don't want
just
to
sorry.
hurt them.
Right. You don't, but you shouldn't. I don't think it's healthy to live a life where you're just walking through, and if people are, it's almost like you have no random compassion at all because
I have compassion.
That's a weird thing to say.
I have compassion for people. I worry about people. I'm compassionate to people, but their emotion. What does it matter to me? Unless it matters to me directly for some reason, like I'm in a relationship with them or whatever.
I understand.
But
what
if people,
you're saying,
what if people say? What if people say like, "Hey, your show hurts my feelings, and your jokes hurt my feelings." I'm just like, I'm not gonna change my jokes because it hurts your feelings.
Okay, I understand.
You
what
should
you're
stop
saying.
listening because like, right?
No, I understand what you're saying.
So they're like, I don't like the fact that you drive this truck. I hate that.
I hate your truck. I have hated it for a while.
Then it's like, okay, I don't know why that has anything to do with me. You know what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying.
So I'm truly confused by
it. It shows a strange lack of like compassion for those around you if they are feeling something. To know that the person you're operating with doesn't care and has said they don't care, it changes the dynamic of the relationship, whether you know it or not.
Well, if I'm in a relationship with that person...
No, it could be a relationship of anything. It could be a business relationship, could be a religious relationship, could be an intimate relationship, could be a teacher-parent relationship, child-parent relationship. There's so many different relationships out there.
Yeah.
So when you know that one person doesn't value how you feel about anything emotional, I think it deadens, it almost, it kills part of the communication because emotions, I think, are used to communicate. So if one person is not receptive to any emotion, then we're off to a bad start.
Yeah, but what if it's a rational emotion?
Well, but I almost feel like you could be irrationally logical, right? Yeah. It's like you've gone so far in this quest to chase down and kill emotion that now, that now you almost are leaning into things that you claim are logical, but they're not. They're just logical in design.
Yeah. Well,
I think that's pretty well said.
Well, then, but if someone, how am I supposed to, or react to someone's emotion? What does it have to do with me?
No, I understand.
I don't know why you feel that way or what.
I guess like if you and I were talking about it, and if I felt a certain way. If it would be important because of our relationship for you to know how I feel, maybe why I feel it, and for us to that's a form of communication, right? You're going to know whether or not I like something, dislike something, just on the pure emotion of what's happening. To discount that is taking away part of the way we communicate.
No, I know. I shouldn't even brought it up.
No, it's fine. I think it's great to talk about this stuff. I think it's totally great to talk about this stuff. I think it's also bullheaded and short-sighted to take a form of communication that is good. I know you don't value it, and you may not think it's good, but it's a form of communication that I think is good, and then just turn it off. Then you're not getting the full picture. Because you're so obsessed with being logical that you're not being logical.
Yeah,
I could be totally wrong, but
I'm not obsessed with anything. I'm just telling you how my brain works.
Let's do an email. let's do an email here. Let's do this one from our good friend, who is this one? This is John, that guy on TV. John that brings in the consumer products. Hey, Dan, I'm listening to you guys talk about how you didn't learn much in gifted class in elementary school. Me too. I saw a theory on Twitter, so it must be true. The TAG class or TAG class was just to get us out of the classroom because we were distraction to the teacher and other kids. Instead of having us ask too many questions, we'd go learn magic tricks or archery or basic programming. And then the teacher would go back to times tables and vocab work with the other kids. Have you ever heard of that?
Well, it makes sense.
It does kind of make sense.
But, it's like certain programs are put in place and you got humans running them and not to mention humans that are underpaid and having to deal with the BS of the system. So it's like, I imagine their intentions are good, but they have to deal with the system they're given. And then it's like, all right, well, what kids go to gifted and what are you going to teach them in gifted? You're also limited to probably what you would want to teach them because there's so many people that would be outraged if you tried to go into too much,
Right.
I don't know. You know what I'm saying? They're probably handcuffed.
I never got that feeling, though. Like, when I was going to gifted classes, I never got the feeling that, like, they were just killing time with us. I'm sure they're different, like, all across the board, but I never got that feeling. We were always, we were always doing something, like, a little odd. Like, I know a lot of gifted kids do that one lab where you take an egg and you put it in a shoebox and then you have to engineer a way to drop it off the top of the school and not let the egg break.
Yeah.
So it's like almost like an engineering project at some point.
I wonder if there's any evidence that gifted classes made any sort of difference with people or whatever,
What I'm learning whenever we ask that about, like, is there evidence of this? I can find evidence either way. Which way do you want evidence? I can find evidence for people that think gifted classes are BS. And I can find evidence, like, for my mom's side. My mom is really big on that. Like, I'm glad you went to these higher level classes. Yeah, she also didn't know that when I got to a certain level of international baccalaureate that I dropped out. And I just took honors classes because it was easier.
Yeah, well, that makes sense to me, honors, because it's just like an advanced version of what you or everybody else is learning. So it's like honors history, or you know what I'm saying? But the gifted is kind of just puts a broad, like,
yeah.
And then I wonder what the actual curriculum of gifted is, of like, I'm sure some
BDM Matt 99
doctor put it together.
He said my gifted resource class at Glenwood Middle School was effing badass. He loved it. Yeah, I enjoyed mine too. I had some really good teachers that, are still teaching to this day, which is weird because I'm, not young. Here's one from one of my favorite emailers, Clay. He says, Dan, Tom, and possibly a potential guest, I'm watching some Hulu with commercials, and it keeps showing those bland medical drug commercials. If you were hired to be medical drug actors, what would your scene in a medical drug commercial be? Are you the actor that's smiling in the kitchen as they list the benefits of the medical drug? Are you the actor that's admitting to having a medical issue person? Are you the actor reading a book in bed while they list a side effect person? Thanks for doing those type of commercials for your medical advertisers. Clay.
Hold on. There's someone been knocking our door for a while.
You want to get it? I love it. Yeah, you want to get it? It might be Burn Pest Control. If it is, tell them to burn those pests.
Hey, sorry about that. Sorry, yeah, all good.
Is it Burn?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. What's up, man? Good to see you. Sorry about that. Oh, we are, but you're fine. You're fine. Keep going. Keep going. You're good. You're good. I like it when we do this live. It reminds me of, like, old school style. You know what I mean? Like, come on in. Let the pizza guy in. Come on. We're having a party here. Let's go over to voicemails and try the. Oh, let's answer that question first. Sorry. Mine, I've thought about this a lot. I was a big fan of the depression commercial where they had the little sad egg. It was like a little egg, and he's like walking through life, and then he gets the Lexapro, and then he's like, and then he just gets. What's the funny thing about this ad? I think he just get a little smile, not a big smile, just like, that's a little better.
And that's probably a direct result because I've seen a lot of animation, and it's probably because they realize, like,
emotional people gravitate more to that drawing, I bet. I bet they do it that deep.
Probably hard to find actors or actresses that want to be in the, can't get a boner commercial.
They find those.
Or like,
find those. The depression ones are normally like the animated ones.
Yeah.
It's because they don't want people thinking you're crazy.
Oh, yeah. And then it's probably like all we need to do is say the name of the medication. Has anybody...
I would do all of those.
Have you seen a medication commercial and thought to yourself, like, oh, I need that? Like, I have not experienced
You're probably
that.
talking to the wrong person because I might have a yes in there. But no, not really. But, like, I was sitting there thinking, like, there's
Like,
no...
usually it's your doctor that suggests whatever medication... maybe it's for you to then say, like, hey,
They say that at the end.
Yeah.
They're like, talk to your doctor. You know, I don't think there's any commercial I wouldn't do. Like, hey, you're going to have AIDS in this commercial. That's fine. Hey, your boner's dead. All right.
Yeah, because
You're a
just trying to
murderer.
get a
That's
job.
cool. Hey, you're a rapist. No big deal.
Yeah.
You know, speaking of that, our buddy Owen from the Oh No radio show played a rapist as a child actor.
He was a child rapist? Like,
Yeah.
well, opposite. He was a child that was a
A
rapist.
raping child. He was a raping child.
Yeah,
yes, he played a raping child as a young actor.
That's weird.
Yeah, you can
In a
still
movie?
find it. Go find the movie. Tell him I sent you. I forget the name of the movie. Yeah, he was a child actor, and he played a horrible young man.
Yeah, it was odd for your parents to not flag that and be like, I don't know.
We need the money. Get out there and get to doing it. All right, let's try this one.
Hey guys, I had some questions for Dan about music. Dan, first of all, the new JPEG Mafia album is very, very good. Possibly one of the best self-produced hip-hop records in the past decade or so. So,
Did you know the historian was into hip hop?
No.
Yeah, this guy's he's into the boom bap.
Now, I don't mean to stereotype you, but I did not.
Yeah.
Didn't. That came out of left field.
I know.
check that out if you haven't. Secondly, Dan, what do you use to stream audio? I've been trying to dip my toe into hi-fi, and it feels very complicated. There's a couple good YouTubers that explain it very well, of like, you know, amps and certain things you have to do to use hi-fi headphones to the full capabilities, blah, blah, blah. I was just wondering, like, how do you actually listen to music? Do you have a pair of headphones you recommend? Do you use do you use Tidal over Apple, or, you know, do you have speakers that you really like, or a setup you'd be willing to share? Anyway, love the show.
Love you too, buddy. Great question. I have thought about this a lot because in preparation of your question, and I will just throw it all at you. I listen to music every single way you can listen to music. I use Apple earbuds. I use Apple AirPod Max over the ear. I use these Sonys that I listen to here. I use these big monitors here when I listen to music. I have a vinyl record player and a collection of vinyl that I listen to. But my number one go-to, and if I were to give you the easiest and best way to listen to music, Tidal is great. And yes, Tidal music, their lossless files do sound better, but only if you have the equipment. So just get a good pair of headphones. Personally, I like, for ease, the Apple AirPod Max over the ear, the big ones. They're expensive, like 400 and some odd bucks, but you can get them on Amazon on when they do the Prime Day stuff.
Yeah.
You can get them for like $230. And now you're back down to like what a normal decent pair of headphones. The reason I like these headphones are you can plug them in. The Bluetooth is great. They sound great. You can take calls on them. The noise canceling is super duper good. But I just use those with Apple Music, and I get great quality. And that's all I use.
What's supposed to be the best?
Tidal would be the best, or, you know, downloading your files from like there are other sites that you can go to and download lossless files, like, which is truly like big FLAC files. Like, they're massive. I used to do it back in the day. Remember when Joe built our first app?
Okay.
I used to download all the music for the show, all lossless. But it's just so much, man. I was going through hard drive after hard drive. I mean, I was getting just gig upon gig upon gig. I mean, one album could be like 10 gigs or something.
Because the quality's so high.
Yeah, but really and truly, and I really believe in this, like the audio is only as good as what you're delivering it to you in. So if you just have an old pair of earbuds, don't worry about the quality. Lossless wouldn't even matter to you.
Yeah, because the earbuds can't even
it's
deliver
like
it.
It's like people when like we use pretty poor cameras here at the studio. That's because YouTube and Twitch can't, you know, I'm not going to go out and buy 8K. You can't even broadcast doing that unless you're truly a giant broadcasting entity, and we're not. So it would be a waste of money. So I would just get a subscription to Apple Music, get yourself a nice pair of Apple, and I'm not even an Apple fanboy. There are plenty of other great headphones that you can buy that are comparable, but those are just the ones I use. I like the feel of them. They're heavy, really heavy, extremely heavy headphones. I like heavy headphones. Makes me feel like I didn't waste my money.
Why do one headphone usually go out before the other, and then usually you have just one headphone that works?
It's a good question.
Throughout my entire career, I've
too.
always benefited the fact that the headphones will always break on one ear.
Don't know.
And then people will be like, oh, I can't use these anymore. I'm like, well, give them to me because I only use one ear.
Yeah, I think it's the flex of the headband.
So that eventually will break a wire. It's probably just frayed in there.
Yeah.
And then we're not going to fix it.
Well, look at these. These are the quintessential Sony MDR 7506s that have been around since, I think, 1973.
Yeah.
And if you look at these headphones, the wires that are soldered are on the outside. I've had to repair every set of headphones in here like 12 times with fake, it's like liquid electrical tape. I'm dabbing it in there and pushing the wires back in there because people will come in here, and if you're not used to using headphones,
it'll get snagged on your finger or whatever.
Or you'll, you don't care. You toss them down or whatever. But anyway, that's what I would do. I'm not the king of music. I don't know the most about hi-fi. But that's what I would do for you. I would just go with Apple Music. I also think Apple Music's quality is better in your car than Spotify. No shade to Spotify. Spotify's fine, but I just don't think it's as good.
Do they run different broadcast rates, like with the
they
different
run
streaming
different compression ratios?
Okay.
Yeah, like Apple's got less. Apple uses a proprietary, I believe. I might be getting all of this wrong, but I think they use their own like AAC or ACC files, which it's really good. Their compression is very good. Spotify uses a completely different one. And I have found that just with my ear, Spotify in my headphones sounds a little more muffled than Apple Music. Tidal opens up even a little bit more, but not enough to buy it. It's expensive. I had Tidal for about 6 months in my car just to see the difference in sound. I couldn't notice it.
Because, it's not...
You're riding around, you're doing stuff, road noise. I mean, like, you got to really think about it. You would only want to spend for Tidal or buying lossless audio if you had a setup where you could go into the room, shut the door, sit down in your lazy boy, and just really take in the music.
Yes.
If your kids are going to be running around in the background, if you're in the computer room, don't even bother with it. You'll never hear it.
Yeah.
If you're frying bacon in the background, it wouldn't matter. Let's try this one right here from our friend Canadian Josh again.
Hello, Tom and Dan. It's Canadian Josh again with an edit to my last voicemail about Elon Musk and Lex Friedman in an 8.5-hour podcast. Turns out he didn't talk to Elon Musk for 8.5 hours. He just bunched a bunch of podcasts together and made the big 8.5-hour big boy. Anyway, I would still like to see a Tom and Dan 8.5-hour big boy. Sorry for the confusion. I'll hang up and listen. Love you guys. BDM for life.
He wanted us to do an 8-hour podcast. At first, he called in thinking that Elon Musk and Lex Friedman had done an 8-hour podcast.
Because they released an 8-hour podcast, but it's just a cut-up.
Yeah, it was like a little bit with Elon, a little bit with like some of his design teams. I think these are talking about the brain chips or whatever. I don't know. I don't follow that.
Yeah.
But he was like, I want an 8-hour podcast. I don't know, man.
No, well, I don't think anybody wants that.
We had kicked around at one point, like earlier on when we did this, doing doing a 24-hour one, just to see if we could do it.
The old school, like radio marathon.
I don't think people do those anymore.
Yeah, well, you do hit a wall, and then you're just filibustering.
Oh yeah,
nonsense.
We're doing it right now,
and that's no value to anybody.
No, it's not. It's absolutely not.
How ridiculous is that that's still a thing, where you can get up there as a politician and start reading Huckleberry Finn or whatever, and then you're just wasting everybody's time. You're like, and then that's how our government. That's a thing in our government where grown adults have to sit around.
I'm wasting your time
in the most successful and biggest country in the world, and there's a grown adult with gray hair reading Huckleberry Finn so that they could block some, they're like, I
go.
just have to waste
Shady.
enough time
It's shady.
until we go for our spring break, and then you
Yeah.
can't pass the bill.
Yeah, it's not
And
on
like,
there.
that's what you figured out? Like, that's what we're doing, and everybody's just sitting there watching.
How come people don't
some
stand
old
up and go,
man?
I know what you're doing? Like,
yeah, they're like,
or you snatch the Huckleberry Finn out of his hands and throw it out the window.
everybody's like, that's the process, and then it's like, well, can't we just leave and go to spring break now? This person,
can't.
no, but the rules are if that person stops talking for more than 1 minute, then we can kick him out, and then we can pass the law. And they're like, okay, so we just have to sit here for 2 hours listening to this old man read Huckleberry
Yeah,
Finn.
sorry.
And you're like,
Nothing can be done.
That's
Oh, it's time for session's over. All right, we're done. We're done.
That's the world we live in.
That's the world we live in. Let's try this one right here.
Hey, so Tom's not getting any from his wife, and I think I need to relay these to Tom in a football sort of way. The defense is lined up in a prevent defense every play because you keep throwing long balls every play. You're going Hail Mary all the time, man. You need some play action, Give her a little back massage and don't get it. And if she wants to get it, you'd say, no, I'm a little tired tonight. You know what I mean?
No, you can't do that. That I disagree with.
Yeah.
Once the lion has said, or the dragon, I said lion. Once the dragon said, you want my gold? You don't go, nah, I'm good.
Yeah.
You take the gold.
I got to check it down to Travis Etienne.
Check it down to Travis Etienne.
I understand what you're saying, sir. Believe me, my wife, that's what she wants as well. It's just I have a hard time doing the little, romantic things that other people need to do. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm kind of sick of people giving you crap about it at this point. I know you're not into it. Leave the man alone. It's not into it. It's not into it.
Well, at a certain point, I do look at Crystal and say, like, can't you just give up?
Okay.
Yeah. Can't you just accept that I'm not going to ever do? Yeah. I need everybody around me to give up and stop fighting back. Because you're making it hard on me. Stop resisting my advances.
Go to sleep.
Yeah.
Go to sleep.
Just give up because it's going to be easier for you.
Just breathe. Calm.
I want it to be easier for you. And this whole thing will be easier if you just give up.
Oh my God, that's funny. All right, let's try this one right here. You ever had before I play this one? Because I don't know this answer, honestly. Have you ever had a full-blown neighbor feud? My dad has. My dad had one. Yeah,
No.
We had a bad one.
I do whatever.
They were gonna fight each other. My dad is yelling at like
yeah.
Like I'll say his name, Mr. Fry, and my dad they were like nose to nose. They were yelling at each other. My dad's like, I'm gonna knock your block off. That's what old people say. Knock your block off.
I've always said this. It doesn't make sense to ever fight with your neighbor because it's a person you have to see all the time.
Close.
And don't you want that person as an ally, even if you dislike them?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like
if we got to fight another street, we
yeah.
have to band together as a street.
And it's awkward to see or have the possibility of seeing that person every day. Like, so if you get in a fight with them, like you don't want to see a person you hate every day. Like you want to avoid the people you hate.
Hold on, let me write this down.
But no, people do this themselves. They will create a problem with the person they live next to
because the
and
fight
then you have to
dumped
see
a
them
chemical. No, the fight that they had with that person, whether it's adrenaline or whatever, dumps some sort of chemical in their body and they get addicted to it. So you have to stay in a constant state of anger.
Yeah,
I think people do get addicted to anger. I think we have a ton of people that just love saying in a state of anger.
They can't help themselves. Like, they don't, they're reactionary.
And with social media, it's like having anger on tap.
Yeah.
Just dump it into your mouth all day.
Yeah, but it's like, say I've had this happen. Like a neighbor had a dog poop in my yard over and over, right? And I step in it.
Oh, you got to go set his house on fire.
And I've stepped in it like probably 5 or 6 times and then tracked it in my house or whatever. So I could go down,
march down there, give him
talk
the
to
what
it
for.
like, hey, you're letting your dog poop, and then.
Do you have your gun on you when you do that?
And
you
then,
have to have your gun on you.
And then he's like, no, or maybe they deny it, and I'm like, I know it's
That's
you.
not my dog, and then he pulls his gun out.
I'm not even worried about the immediate fight. I'm just talking about now he's mad at me, I'm mad
Yeah.
at him, and then we know we're mad at each other, and then now every time we see each other,
Standoff.
it's awkward.
Yeah.
And then so maybe it will keep him from keeping his dog pooping in my yard. But now I have a neighbor that we don't like each other, and then for the rest of the
you don't wanna
time
do
we live there, it's gonna be awkward. And then so you know what I did? Nothing.
Yeah.
And that dog eventually passed. And now the problem
You
solved
got the
itself.
last laugh.
And now I live in
How
a
did you stop leaving a little note saying, I'm glad he died?
no, and then I live in a world where I don't have to be awkward seeing my neighbor all
like
the time.
that.
And that's better for me.
It is.
Because
Well,
it
it's
would be
probably better
worse
for him,
me.
too. Like, he doesn't want to fight.
Yeah, but regardless, it's better for
It's
me.
better for the dog. It's better for the dog
Yeah,
if the
yeah.
dog can just poo wherever it wants.
So that's where I don't get like starting the problem.
Yeah.
Because like, isn't it worse for yourself? Why are you making it worse for yourself? And they're like, I have to say
Yeah.
something because that'll eat me
What
up
if it was
inside.
like 25 times? Then you could say something, right?
Well, I guess if I didn't see an end to it or something,
Yeah.
and then I don't even have to confront it. Like if it's
Really,
something
what you're talking about is like, if there's just a couple of times,
yeah.
don't overreact. You're talking about overreacting.
If he's doing it on purpose, like then I would be like, hey,
Hey, it's me. It's a dog. But why your dog a pooping up a hey?
But you know, you're gonna be just like, hey, I stepped in some poop a couple times. It's all good. I understand. I don't care.
I like doing it actually. you can swing the other way. Like,
I'm stepping it around.
Hey, can you have your dog come over here and poop? Oh, but your dog didn't. I noticed your dog didn't poop on Tuesday, and I was sad because I love it so much.
Because you could disarm a situation. I've done this before, where like
You grab his hand, you start smashing it against the bricks. He drops the gun.
you could because if you get angry, the person immediately
Get defensive.
defensive anger.
Yeah.
And so now it's both anger.
Oh yeah.
And then if you come joking or like
Oh
you
man,
could
look
disarm,
at this. Oh, free poop. Yeah.
you could disarm anything, and like you could have conversations with anybody. I've learned
Dog
this.
poops in my yard. Says what? What? Oh, gotcha. Hey, just wanted to talk to you for a second about your dog.
I learned this lesson trying to get my overdraft fees reimbursed by Wachovia.
Oh, is this a honey?
Yeah.
More
yeah,
honey
yeah.
than vinegar, buddy.
I realized
Yeah.
by if you come at them hat in
No,
hand.
you can't.
What do you mean?
No, what you're saying is absolutely 100,000,000% correct.
Yeah.
You have to. You cannot
You're
come
like, it's
screaming. No, you're done.
Yeah.
I've done that before, and they're just
Yeah.
like,
You'll
they'll
get
just hang-
nothing.
They'll hang right
Yeah.
up on you.
But if you're hat in hand and then say like, "Hey, I'm super sorry. I was a college kid.
It's probably my fault.
Yeah, it's my fault. But I can't afford my groceries this week.
Yeah.
Like
My mom has cancer.
they will. I think they change it so you only get one a month. But like being nice to people will get you more than being mean to them.
I agree.
You
I
know.
agree.
And
Let's see what they say about neighbor feuds, though.
Hey Tom, Dan, Big Boobs Lee. I was calling about the neighbor feuds. It's not really a feud because I guess we never really had like words about it or whatever, but I live pretty rurally, and I had someone move in on a road that previously I was the only person living on. And a couple days into moving there, he was driving by and saw my wife jogging and kind of pulled over and was like, hey, the road's really rough here in my wife's car. This isn't a well-maintained road. We were thinking of kind of graveling it, putting it down, leveling it, all that. And what do you think about that? And she was like, oh, we drive trucks. It's not really a problem for us. But yeah, go ahead if you want. He was like, well, I was thinking we could maybe split the cost. And so she was like, oh, I don't know about that. I have to talk about it. If you get a quote, come on over.
That's normal, right? Like if you live on this is like Andrea's dad. When he lived on the dirt road, like all the neighbors were kind of responsible for like, hey, we're going to do a gravel dump here to keep the dust down. So
Yeah,
I need $70.
Yeah, there's splitting the cost. Yeah. Usually, even if you don't want to do it, you just do it to be nice.
I think I know that this guy is not taking Tom's method. Most people don't, by the way. I think
You get offended. You're like, what? How dare you?
Hey, but even I didn't.
That's an attack.
But that's funny because even I don't do that. Like if this happens, I don't go immediately to the mattresses. I'll get hot about it, but not like this guy's talking.
I talk with my husband, meaning me, about it, and he said, oh, that's fine. A couple of days later, they just start rolling it out, do a really nice job, good, like professional grade job redoing this whole about a mile road. And so they finish up, and then a couple of days later, he just leaves the bill on my porch with a note that just says, hey, here's how much it was. Your half would be this much. So I kind of went over and was like, look, I'm all about being a good neighbor. But I mean, the way that it was before didn't bother me. And it was a significant amount. I think it was $12,000. So he was looking for like $6,000.
Whoa!
And
that's a lot of money.
I didn't go to the end of the voicemail. If you asked me for $6,000, I'm probably going to tell you, whoa, buddy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. At that point, like, I'm not even, because especially if you didn't get the full okay from us and like, hey, yeah, we'll split it. If my wife just said, oh, let me talk to my husband, and you did it.
G's.
Yeah. I'm like, I won't pay that. $6,000. I'm not paying $6,000 over just I'll throw $50 or like even like $200.
I got a couple $100 on it.
Yeah, whatever. But $6,000. Now, like I have to prepare for that. I gotta move things around.
I gotta move some money.
Like I'm not gonna ever nonchalantly just expect someone's gonna split $6,000 with or like $12,000 with me. Like that's a lot. Like even
we did have somebody one time expect us to split a website we built with them, and it was a lot. you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's the closest I could come to that, and we were like, what? Right?
Yeah.
We were like, oh no, this is a lot of money.
But so I wonder, what did he do? Did he now he's in a feud with your neighbor?
Let's see. Wait.
Who was looking for like $6,000, and I was like, I'm just not. I would have had to have budgeted for that. It wouldn't have made it on my list of priorities. I'm not gonna pay you for it. And to his credit, he didn't like freak out or anything, but I think he wasn't super happy about it. And then I guess it's more one of those things like I'm not sure if I'm the one being the bad neighbor here or not. Anyway, fun story. Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Let's analyze this. I don't think you're a bad neighbor. I don't necessarily think he was a bad neighbor, but there was definitely a complete and utter lack of communication here.
Yes, and he may have just been fishing to see if he can get you to pay the $6,000. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he wanted to do it, and he spoke to your wife about it, and he was not going to wait for you to give me, and then he's like, I'm just going to do it. And then he's like, maybe I'll submit on the bill.
Blame it on the wife.
Or just submit the bill, and maybe they will pay it. Maybe he accounted for that in the back of his head. Or like, I'm just going to give it a try just in case, like, because maybe you are rich and you were paid the $6,000 just to be cool or what. I don't know. Like sometimes cheap people will try to get reimbursed even though they think it's a long shot, just to try to get the money.
I mean, he may not, I have so many little details to these type of things that I need because I need to profile the full situation. Like I need to look at the old man because I've already pictured an old man who's getting the road done. I pictured the man that's doing that older than the person that left the voicemail message. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, like, could this be a dumb old man? Like, maybe not up to no good, maybe not trying to cheat you, but maybe he did think that talking to your wife that in some weird delusional way that he did get the okay on it.
Yeah. Also, is your wife describing the interaction 100% accurately?
Oh, man, I didn't want to say that. But you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
What did you say to him? I'd have to know. Yeah. What did you say to him? What did he tell you? Did he say, hey, you want to split the cost of the road? And you're like, yeah, whatever, sure. Then it's your fault.
Yeah, because maybe your wife was like, oh, just some, some dump truck with some gravel. Like, that ain't going to be, she's like, whatever.
Women do. Women assume all the time. They do. Don't tell me they don't.
And then the way she explained
we figured
it
it out. It's the wife's fault. It took us a minute, but I told you we could talk this out.
But I've had this happen before where I've had an interaction with someone and then they went ahead and they're like, oh, I thought you were cool with it. I'm like, what part of our interaction did you think I was cool? Like, I didn't say, yeah. Like, I did not say I'm 100%, I kind of nonchalantly like, oh, okay. Like, you tell me something.
All right.
I'm like, okay, I see. Let me think about it. And then you go ahead and do it. Like, that's not a... I had this recently happen with something that got repaired. Like
I was hoping I didn't do this. I was like, did I do this? And then like you're like, sure.
No,
and then
no.
like you do that thing where you're like, wait, what'd you say?
No.
You know what I'm talking about? Where I'm like, hey, can I have $1,000 for this? And you're like, sure. And then you're like, whoa, wait, what are we talking about?
So I dropped this thing off, these couple things off to get repaired.
Yeah,
and
your dildos.
And the person behind the counter said, hey, the repair person will call you and with how much it's going to cost or whatever.
Correct.
And then I forgot about it. Like weeks went by. No one called me. And then all of a sudden I called and they're like, oh, hey, it's ready. It's already been fixed.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'm like,
Automotive stores do this all the time.
And I'm like, oh, no one, I didn't say it. I was like, oh, okay, well, how much? And they told me, and it was more than I thought and more than I expected.
Yeah.
Now, not
it's
enough.
It's a digital dog pooping in your yard. And you're like, how do I handle this with the least resistance? What do I do?
And then I thought, I was like, well, I guess I could have an argument here to say, like, wait, you never even told me how much it was going to cost.
You didn't have an argument.
You know, but they didn't. They never told me how much it was going to cost, and then they just did it.
I actually thought the way you handled it was pretty good, and this is
that's usually why they make you sign estimates. Or whatever,
sure, you know? But as Mr. Hothead, like the way you handled it, like because the more I thought about it, I'm like, well, I don't know if there's much he can do now because it's fixed.
Yeah. I guess they could have given me a discount or whatever, but then I was like, well, I'm replaying like what would have happened. So they called me and they told me the price, and then what I would have said, I'm gonna go pay. I'm not gonna fix it anyway. Yeah, like most likely I probably would have drove there, picked the stuff back up, then started looking around at other places, see if they're cheaper, because I would have probably said I'm probably only gonna save $100 here.
Right.
You know, like how much cheaper could the other place be really? And so then it's like for $100 is it worth all? You know, so I did all that math in my head, and then I was like, thank you. Yeah. And then I just paid it. But technically, it was wrong. But I did. I'm again.
It worked out.
I'm doing it for myself. All this math in my head is what is best for me.
Yeah, I get it.
Anyway,
Andrea's starting to do this now with delivery food. You know, she's like, it's better for me. And I'm like, whoa! She'll say it. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, the $8 that I'm saving.
She's like, it's easier for me.
The time.
Yeah, because she'll be all stressed out. I'll be like, why are you stressed out? She's like, I got to run and get the food. I'm like, no, you don't. You put that on you.
Yeah,
you don't need to do that.
Yeah, have them, you know,
why not?
Your time. Because you do start, as time gets less, you're like, well, that hour, I mean, that's a $30 hour.
Yeah. All right, guys, we got to get out of here. Guys, thanks so much for listening. Go to tomanddan.com for all things Tom and Dan. Anything else we need to plug?
No, our Beer Fest and Sofa and Suds are coming up in November, but we will see you tomorrow.
Bye. Awesome. All right. Cool. Ended strong. Let me save those guys. 3 and 4. 45. All right, guys, we will see you tomorrow.
Yep. We'll see you tomorrow, Twitch.
Have a great wonderful rest of your day.